Anyway, that's the update for the no buy, low buy. I don't know why I'm calling it a no buy because it is ultimately a low buy. But I guess if we go by month, it's a no buy. I don't know. How about this? We're going to call it my intentional book buying journey. Oh my God. I just got the news. I would read your grocery list. So if you want to send that to me, please. Hello. And welcome to this little channel. Welcome to this video. This is the 5th reading vlog in my series. I'm particularly excited for this one because it is March, so it is the transition of the seasons. I'm so excited because it's also almost time for Nowruz, and I start getting giddy and excited preparing for that. It's also Ramadan, so a lot is happening all at once. I'm anticipating that I'll have more time to sit down and react to the camera and also talk to you about these books that I'm reading. So let me show you the 5 books that I put up as options for this episode, and then I'll tell you which one's won. All right, so all of these, oh no, you can, whatever, we're just gonna ignore that, guys. It's sunny, so I have 3 of them were full-length novels, and 2 of them are, this is a novella, I'm pretty sure, and this is a few different short stories. The 2 that we're going to be reading together, I'm really excited because even though so there were 2 in the list that I really wanted to pick up next, Kairos and Never Let Me Go. One of the 2 won, but another one that I'm equally excited to start also won, so I'm going to be reading that instead. So the 2 that won is All My Rage and Never Let Me Go. I'll show you guys the little poll over here. The way that I do it is the top 2 with the most votes is the one that I decide to read. So Never Let Me Go and All My Rage. I don't know anything about Never Let Me Go besides the fact that it's a banned book, which I didn't even know when I first got it. I'd heard so much about it, and I read Clara and Her Son by the same author, and I really enjoyed that. So I really want to pick this one up because I know this is one of his more well-known novels. And All My Rage is by Saba Tahir. I absolutely adore Saba. Amber in the Ashes is one of my favorite series of all time, and I'm reading Air right now actively. I'm really glad to be in a Saba Tahir moment because I think it's gonna be 2 books of hers that I'm reading in March. I think I'm going to start with All My Rage. Also, let me show you guys. It's so funny. I initially bought this because I wanted to get a gift for my friend. So I initially bought this for my friend, and then I had called her and I just brought it up, and she ended up telling me that not only had she bought it, but she also had a signed copy. So I ended up keeping it for myself because I was like, oh, I'm not gonna give you a duplicate gift. I ended up getting her something else. This was a few years ago, but I do have a signed copy. I really want to meet her one day. I literally love her so much. I'm gonna start with All My Rage for sure, even though I'm equally excited for both. But let's start with All My Rage and see what it's about. The people have spoken. I also again the people have spoken again because I asked them to speak, but I also took an extra poll on my Instagram to see if people wanted me to start with Never Let Me Go first or All My Rage, and All My Rage won. So we're going to start her together. I actually haven't read from a hardcover in a really long time because I don't really buy hardcover books. So I've actually seen Carrie Can Read do this before in her reading vlogs where she'll read the first line. So I'm gonna start doing that too. Okay, that's better. Just had to readjust that a little. So yeah, as I was saying, I've seen Carrie Can Read do this before in her reading vlogs, and I like the idea of reading the first line together. So let's read the first line together. Oh my gosh, the bookmark from the place I bought it from, the bookstore I bought it from, is still in it. The clouds over Lahore were purple as a gossip's tongue the day my mother told me I would wed. I literally don't know what's going to happen in this book, so let's just read together. I think I mentioned this already. I'm fasting, so today's the 2nd day. First day went by fine. I didn't feel super hungry. Maybe the last 40 minutes I was just starving. Right now I think there's 45 minutes until I can eat. So I'm gonna read for that 45 minutes essentially. So let's read it together. Set you guys down like that so I can like lean back. I just finished the first 2 chapters, and there's another what's it called? There's another POV character. So far there's Misbah, Sal, and Noor. I'm like Sabataya's writing is always like so incredible, but I don't think I've ever I genuinely have never read her like contemporary novel. This is her only like not fantasy novel, and I'm so like I love her writing. It's so beautiful, like just the way she writes. I mean, I remember when I first read what's it called, the first time I read An Ember in the Ashes, my mind was just blown that fantasy could be that good. Literally one of the best series I've ever read, and on reread it proves itself like amazing again. But this is the first not fantasy, I think it's like what, contemporary that I'm reading from her. Obviously it's the only one she's published, and so far it's really interesting. I'm gonna stop recording just because I don't think there's anything like wildly like immediately like, I don't know. I'm gonna stop recording, but if anything crazy happens, I will hop on here and like let you guys know. Okay, this is so real, the like millions of emojis. Sorry, I just had to say that. Hello. So I have been traveling and it's been hard finding like a minute to sit down and talk about all my rage. Because I've been like just running around and surrounded by a lot of people. So I wasn't going to sit down and like start recording in front of people. But I finished All My Rage 2 nights ago, I think. I don't have the book on me right now. Planes. All My Rage. So that I did not know much about that book going in. I knew that it's about 2 kids and a motel. That's all I knew. I didn't know what the motel had to do with anything. I didn't know what the 2 kids had to do with each other, whatever. I genuinely didn't know. When I first opened the book, there were trigger warnings, which were very helpful. And I really like the way that it's set up so that if someone wants to know what the trigger warnings are, you can check them. But alternatively, you don't have to like know the details if you're comfortable with that. I read them just because I was curious and I wanted to know. This book was just filled with grief. I mean, it was grief after grief after grief. And underlying on all that, despite that, there was so much hope. To the point where like I literally burst out crying, and I did not record myself because that was awkward. But I literally burst out crying a few times while I was reading this book because I was just so shocked by all the difficulty and trauma that these characters were going through. And I think that I also really appreciated that it's a story about Muslims, but not in the perfect ideal way that we usually see like Muslims portrayed as, and alternatively like not eradicating the Muslim identity in service of having characters that are going to drink and it's not going to be a problem because religiously they're allowed to. I really like that blend of... Also, I'm sorry if you can hear the wind, but I'm sitting in a car and it's so windy outside. But basically, I just loved how much it humanized Muslims and didn't place us in a box, or place this community in a box of like, you know, perfect, like they never drink, they never do anything that they're not supposed to or whatever. I think it's so important to portray Muslims as people because, I mean, aside from making people relatable, it also like helps people who are in the community who don't feel like they're perfect or know that they're not perfect to feel like they're not like lost causes and hopeless just because they're not what they're supposed to be, as portrayed in the community, especially with like Muslim community can be very judgmental. Even though everybody's doing the same wrong things, they are so judgmental towards each other. So yeah, I just loved it. It kind of reminded me of Rami a little bit, the show Rami. I'm endlessly surprised by Sabaa Tahir's ability to write, because like she's written fantasy all up until the point that she wrote All My Rage, and I didn't expect it to be bad because I know that she's a good writer, but I think I just didn't expect it to be so deliciously good. And delicious is like weird way to describe it, but it was just so... My reading slump was defeated. Like, I genuinely was staying up so late with my phone flashlight on because everybody around me was asleep. I had my phone flashlight on the pages as I was reading because I was that invested and curious and I wanted to know what was going to happen. So thank you, Sabaa Tahir. I would read your grocery list. So if you want to send that to me, please. I literally love Sabaa's writing so much. I just like highly recommend. I gave that full 5 stars. Which I know I don't talk about ratings that much, but you know what? I'll talk about my good ratings. Maybe I'm going to change my tune a little bit. It deserved it. It was beautiful. It was so heartbreaking, but it was also so hopeful. And that really was what pushed you through, because I think you cannot... I mean, you can, but I think it's really hard as a reader to read a book that is solely and purely grief-stricken without some semblance of hope towards the end, or like underlying it all. I hope that makes sense. I'm like rambling in my car while my people are doing stuff, but yeah, highly recommend. I brought Never Let Me Go as well. I brought both books with me, and I'm going to start Never Let Me Go hopefully today. I have a bunch of errands and stuff that I need to run and things that I'm going to be doing today, but that's the plan. So Yeah, All My Rage was so good. Like, I blew through that book. Home a little bit earlier than I expected to be, which I'm glad about. But I'm here to give you guys a little bit of a reading update. So Never Let Me Go, which I started a couple days ago, but I haven't really had time to read. I'm on chapter 3. I'm like about to start reading chapter 3. And I'm gonna have you guys like, we can hang out together while I read. The only thing I want to say is that, as much as All My Rage got me out of a reading slump, I was reading it like crazy. I am so tired and hungry from being back to fasting that I don't know how long this is going to take me, but I'm aiming to have it finished by the weekend. So we'll see what happens. I also have a little bit of a haul to show you guys. Here's the update. Okay, so here's the update. So January, I bought one book. I think it was The Parable of the Sower. In February, I didn't buy any books. In March so far, March has been honestly the most book buying month so far, or like book acquiring. I brought this out because there's way too much noise around my house and like outside and stuff. So anyway, March has been admittedly my worst book buying month so far, mainly because of the number of books I got, not necessarily bought. So I had a gift card that I used to buy, but I didn't pay any money out of my own pocket. Box set for Hunger Games, which I'll show you guys later at some point. And then I also bought this book called Secrets of Divine Love, which I was listening to an audiobook, and I loved it so much that I was like, I want a physical copy, especially if I can like lend it to people. So yeah, 5 books, a box set, and The Secrets of Divine Love, but like not my own money. So for me, that doesn't count. Did, however, spend money while I was on books, while I was traveling. And I kind of made an exception, which for me, this is still fine, personally. However, there was one book which I think I mentioned earlier in the year when I went to Arizona. I was like going to different in-person stores, and I was really, really looking for this book because I wanted a physical copy so that I could read it and like highlight and do what I needed to do. So this was always on my list of books that I wanted to buy for like just generally soon. The other book that I got, let me just show you guys. You will understand. This one is 1984, of course. I have been meaning to buy a physical copy of this book for a while now, ever since like January, and well, before that too, but I was very intentional about looking for it in January, but all I was finding was mass market paperbacks, which for me personally aren't like easy to like highlight and annotate and stuff. So I got 1984, which I'm really excited about reading, and I'm planning on picking up very soon. I got Martyr by Kaveh Akbar because Iranian writer, and I have been hearing a bunch of like mixed reviews. One of my closest friends, she read this and didn't really love it. I have another friend who did read it and thought it was good. So I want to see like how I feel about it. So I did get this from an independent bookstore. It was, let me see, Bridge Street Books in DC. Yeah, I would have bought so many books from that store. It was really cool. And then finally, book that broke, like the book that I had to get. Like there was, I honestly like wasn't going to hesitate for this one anyway. I was planning on buying it anyway because I wanted to read it as soon as possible, and I am planning on making a reading vlog for it. But I got Sunrise on the Reaping, and I am just so excited to pick this book up. Like I am so excited and terrified. We will be reading this together in a reading vlog, but those are 3 books that I did get in March with my own money. What this means for me personally and what I'm aiming for is to not buy books again in April, so that it'll even out to like about 1 book per month, which is fine because I was thinking like 1 to 2 would be fine per month as long as I was making a dent in my physical books, which I have been. Aiming for like a complete no buy in April, and just kind of to even it out because like I don't know. To each their own what a low buy means, but for me I was trying to keep it to between 1 to 2, and this month I did get 3. Anyway, that's the update for the no buy, low buy. I don't know why I'm calling it a no buy because it is ultimately a low buy. But I guess if we go by month, it's a no buy. I don't know. How about this? We're going to call it my intentional book buying journey. I'm going to read a little bit of this. It is like 6:30, 6:40 right now. So there is like an hour-ish left for until iftar. So I'm going to sit and read, and we can read together for a little bit. I wish that I was able to record a little more of my reactions to all my rage, but I feel like because most of my reactions were less shock and more just crying or like crying shock, I don't think I would have recorded those anyway. But this one so far, I didn't know. Oh, I have 2 bookmarks in it for some reason, but I didn't know what it was about. So far, chapter 1 and 2, what's happened is that we're introduced to the main character, who's Kathy, who is talking about her memories of being at a place called Hailsham. Something seems a little bit off, so I don't know what exactly is going on, because she talks about being a carer and talking to a couple of the people that she was at this place with, and we still don't have any details on like what it is she's caring, like why she's caring for these people and how she's caring for these people. So I'm really interested to see where this goes, because I do remember with Clara and her son, it was very like not real, if that makes sense. And I know there's like a better way to say it, but my brain is absolutely fried because I'm fasting again after like a week of not fasting because I was traveling. So anyways, let's read this together a little bit. Also, we match, so that's fun. Hello. Okay, so really quickly, again, if I have my microphone in my hands, it's because it's just loud around me, but I read like a writer, I think, and so there are some details that just really stand out to me when someone is doing like a really good job writing, and I just want to like show you guys, or like I don't know, I just want to show you guys something that stood out to me that I really liked. So in this book, while he's laying out the like essentially the world building of this world and like what's going on, there's this line here. It says, "It must have been a Friday or a weekend because I remember we had on our own clothes." And what this line does is it gives you so much information in just one sentence, where it's like, okay, so we know that they wear a uniform during like at this place that they are. We know that they're allowed to not wear their uniform on Fridays or weekends. And then we also know that it's a Friday or weekend when they're meeting, which like could come into play later on. And I don't know, it's good writing. Like it's not long and flowy all the time. It's not like beautiful descriptions that are pleasing to your ears or your eyes, but it does so much work in such little space. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. And I think that it's teaching me beyond the story being really interesting and fascinating so far. I think it's doing a lot of teaching me as a writer how to kind of improve, or like techniques of dropping information that is important, but without what's the word for it? There's a word for it. Without info dumping. So yeah, little update, but not really. I just got to this part. This whole time I've been reading, I've been thinking to myself that this book somewhat reminds me of The Promised Neverland. I don't know if you guys have seen the anime. First season was incredible. Second season was a flop. But I kept thinking to myself, Promised Neverland. What is going on? Like, this is so scary. I'm scared. The information I just got is so freaky deaky. Oh my god. I just got the news. Anyway, that's just the update. I was literally sitting and minding my own business, and then I saw this and I was like, yo. Anyway. Okay, so I finally finished Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Finished this in the car. I actually listened to the last 20% on audiobook just because I didn't have time really to sit down and read it, and I wanted to finish it by a certain day. What I will say is that I enjoyed Clara and her son more than I liked this book. I really liked the concept and like the idea and kind of how we got information over the course of the book on what was going on. I mean, like at first it just seemed very, I don't know, I didn't know what to expect, because even on the back, when I like checked the back to be like, what's going on here, I didn't realize like what this book was about or what was happening until like the like okay, here's a better way to say it is, the whole time I was reading this, up until the point where one of the characters, and I already warned you about spoilers, but I'll warn you again. Okay, one of the characters, Miss Lucy, ends up telling the kids like, once you guys grow up, your organs are going to be donated. Like, essentially, you guys are like only alive so that you can save other people's lives, and that's like your whole purpose. And up until that point, I kept getting these like weird vibes and thinking about The Promised Neverland, which I mentioned earlier. But I was just like, what? This is creepy, and I want to know like what's going on. So that was like the main thing driving me to read this book. I feel like there was a lot there that was like, just, it worked really well. I mean, I liked the way that the story was told and how it played with memory and kind of how the narrative was laid out, because you would get information about something and then it would lead into something else and then it would lead into something else, and like by the end of the book, you really do have like a full picture of the characters' experiences. But as you're reading it, you're getting like bits and pieces in a really almost stream of consciousness way is how I would describe it. I thought that this was good. I didn't end up loving it. Like I really liked Clara and her son more than I did this one. But I think there's like a lot here that's happening that's like interesting. A lot of like memory, hope, the idea of like cloning and the idea of like proving what the soul is or where that comes from. I mean, like one of the things that I really like thought about a lot was this idea of like the artwork that the children were forced or the students were forced to make or like encouraged to make, and how it was taken off to a gallery to prove that they have souls, and that tie between like art and our souls as human beings. Obviously in this context they're talking about like clones specifically, but I think that like it applies to our real world as well, of like how do you prove that a human being that is flesh and blood and bone has a soul? And I thought that was really fascinating. So it made me think about a lot of things. I really, really like this book. But yeah, so that's Never Let Me Go. I'm really glad I read this one because I'd been meaning to for a really long time, especially after I read Clara and Her Son, because I've heard so much about this. And I did see that there's like a movie with Carey Mulligan, if I'm not mistaken. So I really want to watch that too and see like what the adaptation and stuff is like. So that's Never Let Me Go. I talked about this a lot already, but I also read All My Rage for this vlog, and I really, really loved this book. It left me with so many complicated feelings, and I just feel like this is something that I'll think about for a really long time. A lot of grief and love and loss, a lot of loss. I mean, like throughout the entire book, you keep getting bits and pieces of The Art of Losing by Elizabeth Bishop, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, so at the beginning of each part, you get like a little quote of The Art of Losing by Elizabeth Bishop. And yeah, I thought, I mean, this was such a beautifully written book, and I didn't expect anything less from Sabatahir because I mean, I really adore her as a writer, and yeah, this was so good. Suffice it to say that I really, really love this, and like I said before, like I truly would read her grocery list because she's so talented, and skilled. So that's All My Rage by Sabatahir. On to picking the next book or books that I'm going to read. I'm going to stick to two again because I think that's more doable for where I'm at right now with my like workload and stuff. But we have a list of 5 to pick from. So we have 5 books that we are going to choose from. Martyr by Kaveh Akbat. I really want to pick this one up next, so I'm hoping it gets voted for. 1984 by George Orwell, and I really, really want to read this one too. So like, honestly, pretty much any of these gets voted for, I'll be happy. But yeah, really want to read this one as well. Then there's My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I started and stopped this book so many times, and I actually, the first time I started reading this was via audiobook, and I didn't really like it because I felt like nothing was sticking in my brain because it was all very like, I don't know, I just felt like the format, or like not the format but the narrative was just not suitable to sticking in my brain if I listened to it as an audiobook. I don't know, I can't explain it because like books like Emily Henry books, those stay in my mind even though I listen to them as an audiobook. Maybe it's also the narrator wasn't too great because Julia Whalen like does a great job every single time. But anyways, so I've started and stopped this book so many times, and then when I finally got the physical copy a while back, I started reading it. I'm 32 pages into it and really want to like sit down and read this finally because I've heard so many good things about it, and I've also, one of my professors recommended I read it because of like similarities that it has like with what I've written. So need to read this actually. Another recommendation also by my professor is Kairos by Jenny Erpenbeck. I really want to read this one too. I started reading it, like I'm only on page like 14. I started reading it in an airport like a couple months ago, and I just never got around to like continuing it. I just kind of set it aside. I feel like that happens with a lot of books that I pick up. It's like I'll read the first few pages and be like, oh, this is interesting, but then I won't actually like sit down and read them, or I'll get distracted by other books that I'm reading, and then they just fall like to the side, and then I remember that I own them and I'm like, actually I really wanted to read this. So anyways, this is another one that is like one of our options. And then finally, I've been meaning to read Lolita. I've been meaning to read this for a really long time, and yeah, so that's also one of my options. I really hope that sounded okay, because then I'm going to re-record the whole thing. But let me know, this is like going to be a weird way of holding all my books, but let me know which one of these you think I should read. My hand is tired already. Let me know if you've read All My Rage or Never Let Me Go, because yeah, I'm very curious to see what people think about it. Yeah. I feel really tired. It is the last like couple of days of fasting, and I'm just like really looking forward to being able to eat breakfast again. But yeah, anyways, let me know if you've read any of those books. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I'm planning on picking up next, and cast your vote in the comments, I guess. I'm gonna put a poll in my Instagram for those books, and so hopefully decide what I'm gonna start reading in the next couple days. Let me know if any of these books were interesting to you, or if any of these books like make it onto your TBR list. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in another video very soon. Goodbye. It's really awkward saying bye with this in my hand. Bye.